Good morning. I'd like to call the Niagara Police Service Board public meeting to order, April 24th, 2025. My name is Pat Kiokio, and I'm Chair of the Niagara Police Service Board. I'll begin with land acknowledgement. We begin the meeting this morning by acknowledging that the Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Regional Municipality of Niagara Police Service Board stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. I'll begin with our roll call. Member Gibson.
Present.
Member Yip.
Present.
Vice Chair Capisvanu.
Present.
Member Lawson.
Present.
Member McKendrick.
Present.
Member Steele.
Here.
Just to let you know that Member Lawson and Member McKendrick will be joining us remotely. Number 3, do any members have declarations of conflict of pecuniary interest? Keep looking there. I'm seeing none. We'll go to number 4, the adoption of the minutes. Moved by Member McKendrick, seconded by Member Gibson, that the minutes of the public board meeting held Thursday, March 27, 2025 be adopted and circulated. Any questions or comments? I'm seeing none. Please, all in favor? That carries. Reports from the board chair. On April 5th, members of the Service Wellness Unit held a pickleball for a cause tournament at the Meridian Community Center in Fawn Hill to benefit Special Olympics Ontario. Member Lawson participated in the tournament on behalf of the board. Thank you, Member Lawson. We'll get the results later on. On April 8th, Vice Chair Capisvanu, members Gibson and Steele, and the Executive Director Reed joined members of Traffic Services at the Meridian Community Center in Fawn Hill to observe a training session. The session allowed board members to gain first-hand insight into the training process involved for officers with the standard field sobriety testing. On April 15th, Executive Director Reed and I attended a Canadian Association of Police Governance Executive Directors and Chairs quarterly meeting. These quarterly meetings are designed to facilitate discussions about common issues related to police service boards, commissions, advisory boards, and to share ideas about best practices and approaches. On April 22nd, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Mayor Frank Campion as a featured guest on the All Well and Good Coach Show. The interview focused on the board roles and responsibility as a civilian governing authority of Niagara Regional Police Service, and that will probably be aired in 3 weeks' time. But we'll give you a date if you're interested. On April 23rd, I attended the 4-day Leisureplex to deliver opening comments at the first ever Professional Administrative Day Conference. The conference welcomed administrative professionals from across the region, including local area municipalities, Niagara Region, the NRPS, and Police Service Board, Niagara Parks Police Service, and the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. The sessions provided training on cybersecurity, communication, and leadership in the workplace. The service will be holding a recruit graduation ceremony this evening from 5 to 7 p.m. in the community room at Regional here at Police Headquarters. The ceremony will recognize 8 new recruits, 3 currently serving police officers who are joining the Niagara Regional Police Service. Vice Chair Capisvanu, Member Steele, Executive Director Reed, and I will be attending the ceremony. On April 28th, Niagara Regional Police Service Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Unit will be hosting an information session on the basics of accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. Discussions will include topics relating to the AODA compliance, accommodating employees with disabilities, building requirements, customer service standards, guide dogs, and service animals, recruitment, selection, and assessment procedures, written and electronic material standards. The session is being held at Police Headquarters in the Community Room at 10 a.m. and will be live streamed for those who are unable to attend. Members wishing to attend in person are asked to confirm and board with board staff. On May 4th, Vice Chair Capisavanyu, Member Lawson, Executive Director Reed, and I will be joining Chief Forty, Deputy Chief Laguataria, and service members at the annual Ceremony of Remembrance, Ontario Police Memorial. This important event takes place at Queen's Park in Toronto each year to pay tribute to Ontario's fallen officers, our heroes in life, not death, and supports and acknowledges the hardships so many family members endure every day. There is a memorial wall of honor at Queen's Park, and this year, the names of officers who have died in the line of duty will be added to 272 names already enshrined on the wall. The Wall of Honor ensures that every fallen officer from our Ontario Police and family is never forgotten. The Canadian Association of Police Governance hosts monthly webinars as part of their educational strategy to keep police boards and police executives across Canada apprised of issues currently affecting police and community. Upcoming webinars are being held on May 5th and the 13th. Session topics will include board relationships and police associations and police chief performance management practices. Recorded copies of the webinars are sent to board members for their viewing. On May 8th, the Canadian Mental Health Association will be hosting its Wellness for Fundraising at the Ovation Ballroom in Thorold. The board is a sponsor of the fundraiser, which supports CMHA mental health and addiction services across Niagara region. Proceeds from the event directly impact the ability of CMHA Niagara to respond to increasing service demands and address funding shortfalls. Vice Chair Capisavanyu and I will be attending the event on behalf of the board and will be joined by Chief Forty. On May 9th, the board and the service will be hosting an introduction ceremony to the formally recognized newly promoted Deputy Chief Mario Laguataria. The board looks forward to celebrating this achievement with Deputy Chief Laguataria and his family, friends, and colleagues. Vice Chair Capisavanyu, members Lawson, McKendrick, and Steele, board staff, and I will be attending the ceremony. On May 10th at 2 p.m., members of the Niagara Regional Police Service tug-of-war teams will meet their American law enforcement counterparts on the Rainbow Bridge in Niagara Falls for the 57th annual tug-of-war competition. All members and their families are invited to attend this event to cheer the Niagara Regional Police Service teams to victory, and each are reminded to bring their passport or Nexus cards to access the Rainbow Bridge. Vice Chair Capisavanyu, member Lawson, Steele, and I will be attending the event. On May 13th, the service is holding an open house at Niagara Penn Center from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. The event is free, and members of the community are encouraged to drop in for a behind-the-scenes look at the Niagara Regional Police Service and to learn about the work being done to keep our community safe. Attendees will have opportunities to tour the police vehicles, meet officers, and watch live demonstrations by our K-9 unit to explore interactive displays, including forensic tools. On May 15th, Niagara Regional Police Service, Niagara Regional Police Service Board, Niagara Regional Police Association, and the Senior Officers Association will host the Police Annual Awards Ceremony at the Holiday Inn and Suites Parkway Conference Center in St. Catharines. The ceremony will recognize outstanding service members and fellow citizens who have demonstrated excellence or made valuable contributions to the Niagara community. Doors open at 4 p.m. and the formal ceremony will begin at 5:15 p.m. Vice Chair Capisavanyu, members Yip, Lawson, McKendrick, and Steele, board staff, and I will be attending the event. That date is on May 15th. On May 21st, the Hamilton Police Service will be hosting the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards Zone 4 quarterly meeting. Zone 4 consists of a total of 14 police boards, including municipal and OPP contract boards or First Nations police governance bodies that are located within the regions or counties of Brant, Haldimand, Halton, Hamilton, Niagara, Norfolk, and Oxford. These quarterly engagements allow boards within a certain geographic area to meet for the purpose of discussing matters related to police governance. Further details will be provided when available. Members are asked to confirm their attendance with board staff. There are no committee meetings scheduled for May. The next scheduled regular monthly board meeting is Thursday, May 22nd, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. in the community room here at Police Headquarters. I'll now go to the Police Chief, if there's any reports.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. On April 9th, we welcomed 160 police officers from across the province to a three-day Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police Leadership Forum titled Developing Future Leaders here in Niagara Falls. 4 members of our service were in attendance, including our psychologist, Dr. Tiffany Hunt, who is on the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police Psychological Services Committee. On April 15th, also in Niagara Falls, we attended the Canadian American Law Enforcement Organization Training Symposium, where we welcomed over 100 participants. This organization represents 47-year ongoing partnership between the American and Canadian law enforcement partners and highlights the sharing of information, best practices, and networking to ensure the safety of our communities and to ensure ongoing communication between our respective organizations. This was an opportunity to reinforce the importance of our continued strong relationship with our American partners in law enforcement, especially in the current climate, as we continue to focus on maintaining our shared commitment to public safety. On April 15th, we met with our staff sergeants and we were given a presentation by senior staff from the region on situation tables. The situation tables are part of the region's community safety and well-being plan. This is part of our ongoing recognition of the importance of and the effectiveness of situation tables in Niagara, as it was important for us to share key information with the leaders across our platoons. As you know, situation tables involve a group of professionals from different sectors, inclusive of the police, who are trained and work together to mitigate risk for some of our most at-risk citizens. With respect to community engagement, on March 31st, members of our EDI unit attended the Transgender Day of Visibility flag raising at St. Catharines City Hall. On April 3rd, our EDI unit members presented to an online group of newcomers through the Welland Heritage Council. Topics included policing in Canada, explaining hate crimes, and a question and answer session to address any issues or questions they might have. Many people come from parts of the world where they don't trust police or in fact the police are corrupt. On April 3rd, we joined our Niagara Regional Police Service Pipe and Drum Band at their annual Spring Fling. It was a fundraiser held at the Meriton Community Center. The band was joined by the Niagara Highland Dance Academy and the Rinkanaki Arna, it's Gaelic, Irish dancers from south of the border. They were exceptional. On April 8th, our new recruits and new members of our communications unit went on one of our ongoing diversity units. We also reference it as our Indigenous and Diverse Communities Tours, hosted by our EDI unit, and they were accompanied by Deputy Chief Greco and Sergeant Assetti. They visited the Chinmaya Mission, the Chabab Niagara Synagogue, and the Islamic Society of Niagara Mosque. They also visited the Niagara Regional Native Center and the YMCA Employment and Immigration Services. As the board knows, these tours represent our continued commitment to members of our service, developing and appreciation and understanding of the many faiths and cultures we enjoy in Niagara. On April 9th, the Chiefs Inclusion Council met and our records manager, Laurie Switzer, gave a presentation on the upcoming Canadian Centre for Justice and Community Safety Statistics, also known as the CCJ-CSS, Statistics Canada, request for new information. Stats Canada, in partnership with the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, is working toward collecting data on the Indigenous and racialized identity of all accused and victims of criminal incidents through the survey. We are working with our community leaders in getting their input on best practices to collect this data as we continue to incorporate public consultation where applicable in our planning and processes. On April 10th, members of our EDI unit attended the Niagara University here in Niagara Falls for a spring student services fair. On April 13th, we attended Brock University with members of our recruiting unit, celebrating cooperative education and work integrated learning with students and faculty at the university. This included Constable Al Reve of our recruiting unit and our service. Constable Reve received the Law Plus Partner Award, where they recognized Constable Reve and our service as a valued partner since its inception in 2019. Constable Reve has been instrumental in significantly elevating the quality of programming offered to students who are given opportunities to interact and engage with our service members as they explore pursuing the law enforcement careers. On April 22nd, we gave a presentation to Welland City Council. The district commander, Inspector Gomez, led the presentation, and he was joined by Superintendent Jay Nesbitt. Superintendent Sean Perrant attended, and Manager Stephanie Sabrin of our Corporate Communications Unit also joined us. The presentation was part of our ongoing efforts to attend council meetings to demonstrate the work provided by our men and women, to provide information on programs, to discuss calls for service, and any community issues that they felt they wanted to discuss with us. Tonight, we will be celebrating our recruit graduation with 8 recruits and 3 currently serving officers joining our police service. Also this evening, the Grantham Optimist Youth Club will be presenting the Optimist Respect for Law Award to Constable Luke Reimerchuk in recognition of his contribution to the community. This award recognizes his outstanding work in their Respect for Law program, which aims to inspire youth to respect the law and promote good citizenship. On April 28th, as you referenced, Chair, we will be hosting the Niagara Region Accessibility Advisor, Tammy Dumas. She will be delivering an information session on the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act and how it relates to all our members, both sworn and civilian, as we strive to offer the best service possible to our community. As you also referenced, on May 9th, Deputy Chief Lagrateri will be hosting a celebration of his promotion, and we look forward to the Deputy's family, friends joining us for that event. As you also referenced, on May 10th, we have our annual tug-of-war with our American friends on the Rainbow Bridge as we look to continue our winning streak with all respect to our friends. It's a competition that's been in place for over 50 years. As you referenced as well, Police Week is starting May 12th, and we will be having our open house in St. Catharines. You also referenced the pickleball tournament that was organized by our Wellness Committee. So we thank everybody who came out and enjoyed the tournament. And then finally, as you also referenced, on May 4th, our members and members of the board will be attending the annual Police Memorial Ceremony of Remembrance at Queen's Park in Toronto to pay our respects to the fallen officers and their families and their loved ones. And that concludes my comments at this time, Chair.
Thank you, Chief. I'll now go to the members, see if there's any questions or comments for the Chief. I'm not seeing any. All right, thank you, Chief, for your report. We'll now go to presentations. There are 2 presentations today. So 7.1, our first presentation will be on community consultation findings on body-worn cameras. Chief, do you want to introduce the presenters?
Yes, Chair, thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce Ronnie Ade and Dr. Hector Perez to discuss the presentation on body-worn cameras.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and good morning, members of the board. Today we're going to present the results of our community consultation on body-worn cameras. I would like to say thank you for this opportunity to present these findings, and we'll be covering 4 main topics. So I'll start with an introduction, then we're going over community consultation overview and results, and then Mr. Rani Ode will present some financial and strategic considerations and our recommendation. So first of all, I'd like to thank again all the participants from our community who took the time to complete the survey and also attend the in-person event. And I also would like to thank members of this board for attending the different sessions that we had. Our senior officers, led by our chief, and the community partners who facilitate the venues. I would like to thank all of them. And I would like to express my gratitude to our corporate communications manager and Mandy Asher for facilitating all the works behind the scenes. As you might remember, on June 23rd, 2025, we present an update on the use of body-worn cameras, and this report included a comprehensive systematic review of potential benefits and challenges identified in pilot projects and evaluations from other police services, and peer-review studies related to the implementation of body-worn cameras. As a result, a community consultation was conducted from March 7 to April 4, 2025, across multiple locations in the Niagara region and online, and we reached a total of 2,780 participants, inclusive of NRPS members. The objective of this community consultation was to inform the public, collect feedback, and identify challenges and opportunities, or things that were important to people within our communities, inclusive of our own personnel. We collect data from the public, community leaders, academics, NRPS personnel, and other police services, and we utilize basic two engagement methods: in-person presentations and events, open houses with morning and evening sessions in different locations across the region, and we also create an online survey and a dedicated email address, and we establish a section on our website about frequent answers and questions and evidence-based information on body-worn cameras. So similar to other police services, we use 4 themes to inform the public. The first one was transparency and accountability. The second was community trust and engagement, privacy and data protection, and the last one, public and officer safety. For those who attended the in-person sessions and open houses, you likely saw those signs displayed on easels for participants to read and ask questions and engage with members of our service. And this information was also available on our portal, www.niagarapolice.ca/BWC. So from the distribution of those 2,780 participants is as follows. 1,281 attended the in-person open houses events, 1,329 completed online surveys out of the 1,499 who accessed them. That is an 89 completion rate. That's classified as excellent according to different academic studies, suggesting that the survey was engaging and relevant to participants, and that that refers to the clear questions and reasonable length. 2 different surveys were conducted to gather information, as I said, one for our members and one for the publics. We ask similar questions, but they have different structure. We ask questions about demographics, opinions about the program, concerns, training needs and expectations for the case of members. And for the case of the community, we ask questions on demographics, perceptions of police, and opinions on the program itself. In total, participants share 1,188 ideas and thoughts, including potential challenges, opportunities, and recommendations for the program. And they submitted 22,192 ratings to other participants' comments. So it was like a two-way communication between participants, very open and transparent. So in this slide, you can see an example of the interactions of our officers and our personnel at different, and some of you who participate in those events. Those were open houses. And I'm just going to present the results of our community consultation. So On the side of our personnel, 66% were frontline officers, 41% participants respond being working with the service for more than 15 years, followed by 24% of the participants who reported between 1 to 4 years of service. In terms of demographics of our community members, 81% self-identify as white, 3.5% as South Asian, 3% Black, 2% Latin American, 7% self-identify as indigenous person, including Métis, Cayuga, and Anishinaabe. 3% self-identify within other groups, such as Italian, French Canadian, Polish Ukrainian Canadian, Portuguese Canadian, and Caribbean Canadian. This is representative of our national census in 2021 and the current trends in population. 9% of our participants self-identify as members of the two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, asexual, and all other sexual orientations and genders community. 13% of participants self-identify as a person living with a disability. In terms of gender, 56% female, 40% male, and 3% prefer not to answer. Then in terms of location, 34% live and or work in St. Catharines, 24% Niagara Falls, 20% Welland, 12% Port Colborne, 9% Thorold, 9% Lincoln, 6% Pelham, 5% Grimsby. English was the main language spoken at home among 96% of the participants, and French with 1% of the participants. 2% of the participants reported other language as the main spoken at home, such as Spanish, Punjabi, Urdu, Hindi, Mohawk, Portuguese, Croatian, Serbian, American Sign Language, and Ndebele, which my understanding is an African language. The largest proportion of responded, 23%, belong to the 25 to 34 age group, with the smallest group, 6%, is 75 years and over. The distribution among those who have interacted with the police and those who have not, it's almost even. Then on March 24, as you can see in this slide, we held a World Cafe session with more than 40 community leaders as well to gather their input on the body-worn camera proposal. Key concerns were raised, including privacy, community trust, cost, and inconsistent usage policies. And however, several opportunities were identified by community leaders. For example, how technologies like body-worn cameras could enhance transparency, safety, and community relations, and potentially increase operational efficiency. Community leaders recommended involving diverse community partners in policy development, providing robust training and communication strategies, such as having the information about the program available on our website, and considering a phased rollout of the program in case of approval. So, in terms of results from our members, NRPS members generally supported the introduction of body-worn cameras. They expected body-worn cameras to improve evidence collection, 72%, enhance transparency and accountability, and reduce complaints made by the public against the service. Concerns by our members include privacy, policy and procedure development, discipline, and workloads. There was a strong demand for training, with over 91% requesting legal and policy training, 83% technical training, things like how to use the camera, how to activate the camera, and 66% suggest having scenario-based training. In terms of, more specifically, demands prior to the implementation of the program, officers would like to receive training on legal aspects and documentation about the program. And overall, there was an interest in adopting body-worn cameras with proper training, support, and well-defined policies and procedures. On the community side, out of the 1,021 community participants, the vast majority expressed confidence in their local police, with only 15% believing police were not performing well, 20% feeling response times were slower than expected, and 13% indicating discomfort in calling the police for help if needed. Support for body-worn cameras was overwhelmingly positive. 82% of our community members believed that body-worn cameras would increase trust. 90% felt they would enhance transparency. 89% thought they would improve accountability. 73% said they would feel safer, and 76% believe body-worn cameras will enhance community relations. Only 10% view body-worn cameras as an invasion of privacy. In summary, community members express strong support for body-worn cameras, highlighting the potential to enhance transparency, evidence collection, accountability, and trust between police and the public. Many also felt that body-worn cameras could protect officers from false accusations and support more professional interactions between parties. At the same time, some concerns were raised, particularly around privacy, with fears that footage could be misused or accessed inappropriately. Participants also questioned how footage would be managed and retained, for how long. And while some cautions about the potential cost of implementing the technology, many people in our community acknowledge that if introduced, body-worn cameras will become a public asset, serving as a tool to support the safety of both residents and visitors in the Niagara region. Here are some examples of the questions and thoughts shared by participants. And I'm going to stop here and hand it over to Mr. Rani Ove to provide some financial and strategic considerations. Thank you.
Thank you, Hector. So we are at a stage right now where we have to make a decision whether we move ahead with this or not. Our recommendation is as follows. If the board approves the recommendation, the service will move forward by incorporating both capital and operating costs into the 2026 budget. The preliminary estimates for the capital infrastructure costs are $1.2 million. So just a bit of an explanation on that. Originally, we had put in $950,000 as the estimate. With everything going on now, sorry, with the tariffs south of the border, there is a big unknown on whether or not that's going to affect the first capital cost. So we put in a contingency of roughly 25% on top of the 950. The ongoing costs or the operating costs are still estimated to be about $2.2 million. That does include some salary dollars there for extra staff that we would be hiring as a result of this program. While the initial investment may seem substantial, the potential benefits of this investment are significant and could materialize both in the short and long term. These benefits could include reduction in litigation costs, improved quality of evidence, and overall operational efficiencies. Sorry. It's a bit of a... Okay, there's another slide there. Based on the findings from community consultation and NRPS member survey, we recommend the approval of the body-worn camera program for the Niagara Regional Police Service. Budget considerations should be included in the 2026 capital and operating budget. This recommendation is supported by strong interest in improving transparency, accountability, and public trust, as well as enhancing evidence collection and officer safety. With that, we conclude our presentation and welcome any questions.
All right, thank you for your presentation. I'll go to members now for any questions. Member Yep, and then Member Gibson.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I have a few questions. The first one is with respect to the representation of the respondents. So I appreciate the notes in terms of it being an adequate response of and representative of the community. However, my concern is that it's an adequate response in the representativeness if this was a neutral issue with a neutral institution, but this is not neutral, and there is, of course, disproportionate impacts on racially marginalized communities in terms of policing and the justice system. So just as a for instance, with respect to Indigenous people, Correctional Services Canada continues to see an increase in the proportion of federally sentenced Indigenous offenders. Despite accounting for approximately 5% of the adult population, they are overrepresented, accounting for 28% of sentenced individuals and 32% of individuals in custody. Indigenous women account for 50% of all federally incarcerated women. With respect to Black people, despite representing 4% of adults in Canada, they accounted for 9% of the total offender population. And their confidence in the justice system, 18% of Black people reported having not very much or no confidence in police, which is more than double the proportion among the white population. So again, neutral issue with a neutral institution, this is great that the representation pretty directly matches the census data. Given that it's really not neutral, will more effort be made to reach out to racially marginalized community members to get their input on how they feel about this in terms of how it will impact them and their community members?
I'll just start and then maybe the chief can top up some comments with regard to what we can do in the future. One of the things that we've done at the beginning of this was a meeting with the Community Inclusion Council, the Chiefs Community Inclusion Council, which does represent a large number of our minority groups within our community. So we made an effort there to ask those community leaders to kind of spread the word and reach out to their constituents and ask for their involvement as much as possible. So that's something that we've done extra on top of everything else to target those minority groups. I don't know if the chief has anything else to add in terms of what we can do in the future, if there's anything.
Thank you, Ronnie, and through you, Chair. And to you, Member Yip, thank you for your comments. And the numbers that you reference with respect to Indigenous and racialized persons who are incarcerated, I think is indicative of broader systemic issues and barriers that are resulting in those numbers that are, as you reference, significant and remarkable. For those reasons, I think that when we talk about transparency, trust, accountability, the police officers in our community wearing body-worn cameras, the positive impact should be more reflective in those communities where there are arguably trust issues that are based on systemic barriers that still exist today. So in terms of gathering additional information, our plan was to move forward as is, but my hope is that through this exercise, we will build trust and confidence in some of those at-risk communities and some of those communities that have been most affected by broader systemic issues.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, I do think it's imperative that we gathered that feedback ahead of time, because I don't know that instituting the program will be the thing that helps build trust. However, moving on through you, Chair, I have a couple of concerns about some of the data in Table 5, which is the NRPS members' responses. So the first one is the positive impact on my daily policing duties. Those numbers are really close. 37% disagree and 42% agree. So, I mean, really, I guess we're neutral. Did you want to speak to that at all?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that question and through the chair. So those, are you referring, just to clarify, are you referring to the numbers by our officers or?
Yeah, Table 5, attitudes and perceptions of body-worn cameras. I understand this to be survey results for NRPS members.
Yes.
And so the third question in that table, I believe body-worn cameras will have a positive impact on my daily policing duties. 37% disagree, 42% agree. And again, I'm just concerned with how close those numbers are, particularly because although a good response from NRPS members in terms of the amount, it's of course not everybody, so.
Okay, I'll speak to that. So yeah, in terms of the responses, and that's why we provide the full picture, right? Whoever said in favor, against. What I can say on this response is, even though some participants might find these Likert scale questions divisive in terms of whether or not they agree or disagree with the statement, when you look at the thoughts and the opinions they have, you can also picture why is that they express a concern. I'll give you an example. One of the things that was more important for our officers is the policy thing. So having clear policies, that's why in our earlier presentation we said, they are very concerned of when the camera will be activated, what's the process, things like that. But at this stage in the process, we're learning from them. We know that that is important. So if the program is approved, that's something that, of course, we need to put double batteries to make it work in a way that works for our officers. Because if you see the question about policy, right? I believe that policies and procedures around body-worn cameras will be clear and practical. So you can see here that our officers have valid concerns. And I think it's fair that's why we put it full transparency, and I think that's why I think it's a very fair and valid concerns from not only from officers from our service. I had a phone call this morning with Hamilton. They are 95% on the rollout of their program, and those are similar questions that other services have had in the past. But now that we know that this is this is number one for our officers, we need to put double batteries and make an extra effort to make it as simple, as clear, and also when delivered during training, make ourselves sure that they understand the policy, when the camera will be activated, in which situations, in which scenarios, and how the camera will be activated. And that's also linked to their responses in terms of training. You saw the training needs. So officers want to have training on legal matters, which is policy, procedures, protocols, when the camera will be activated, in which circumstances, and also in which circumstances the camera won't be activated at all, right? Things related to privacy, things related to emergency rooms, things like that. So those need to be very clear, but at this stage, we learn from that, and that's something that we will take into consideration if the program is approved down the road, and we'll make sure that we come back and we present how we address that specific item from our consultation. We'll present how we address that or how we plan to address for our officers.
Okay, thank you for that. Through you, Chair, yeah, thank you for addressing the policies and procedures concerns, because that was one of my other questions. I found those numbers alarming, that there's a significant disagreement in terms of whether people are confident that the policies and procedures will be clear and practical, which is a pretty low, clear and practical is a pretty low bar to meet for most things. My final question, and you touched on it a tiny bit in the end of that last answer, is with respect to the privacy piece. In the community consultation with the community leaders, I can't find it at the moment, but, oh, here it is, privacy and confidentiality concerns. So with, for instance, intimate partner violence cases, or newcomers who, again, probably have a different relationship or experience with police, how are we going to, how are we proposing that we'll manage those kinds of concerns? I wouldn't want survivors of intimate partner violence to be even more hesitant to call police because now they'll be on camera.
Thank you for that question, and through the chair. Thank you for asking, really, thank you for bringing that question. That was the first theme during our community consultation with leaders. So, and I'm just gonna elaborate a little bit more for the benefit of the audience on that. So the theme was privacy and confidentiality, and a description, high-level description of what our community leaders meant by that. Concerns about recording sensitive interactions and access to footage. Examples: victims of domestic abuse, avoiding police, and there are multiple peer-reviewed studies that really relate to that. When the victim is able to watch again the footage could be traumatizing. So those are considerations that we need to take into account for our own policy development and our own procedures. The second item, and another example, concerns about privacy in emergency rooms. So we hear clear and loud from nurses in our community. They were expressing their concerns of having those situations recorded. Of course, we have learned again from other services when the camera is not activated. So that's something that we will consider within our framework of developing our policies moving down the road. And the third item that that they have concerns about, it's concerns over storage and use of footage. So how can I access or if I can? Of course, there's different regulations that we need to take into account, but some services, they have expressed clear policies on FYIs, or freedom of information access, when you can access your own footage. But yeah, that's the issue of, for example, police body-worn cameras and response to domestic and family violence. That's an issue that has been documented previously and that we have taken in consideration for our own consultation. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So, sorry, because now I'm thinking out loud, and that can be a messy, that can be a messy thing. So, the articles that have been written, or the documentation that you're working from in terms of re-traumatizing survivors is, of course, enormously important. I'm also concerned, though, that with the rollout of body-worn cameras, survivors might be even more hesitant to just call in the first place in terms of, okay, now I'm going to be on camera as well. Will there be, again, thinking out loud, will there be some sort of policy and then a communication of that policy that, you know, if you are calling because you're the victim or survivor of something, that you can ask the officer to turn the camera off? I don't know what that looks like. My biggest concern is I don't want people who are already very hesitant to call police to be even more hesitant.
Well, thank you for that question, and through the chair and Chief, I'll just start and probably you can continue. Yes, the purpose of the full body-worn cameras is to collect evidence, right? So in some situations, again, based on the policy and the procedure, the camera could be deactivated according to what our senior leader staff, based on the community consultation feedback and what we learn from our other services and from our members, will establish. However, there might be situations where the evidence is really needed to proceed with a criminal case, right? So, and also that has been documented that the availability of the camera to provide that additional piece of evidence for courts and justice, it's critical. And that's an expectation that more and more so it's growing among justice of the peace and crowns and prosecutors, right? So it's something that we need to discuss internally, those specific scenarios, but I think it's a valid concern. Chief?
Thank you, Hector, and through you, Chair, to attempt to address your question. The common theme that is running through many of your questions is communication, both internal communication and external communication, and we know that that's something that, you know, if supported by the board to move forward, that we need to invest heavily in. Once we've developed those policies, then how we communicate them internally and externally is really important, and will have an impact on ultimately our service delivery. If we get that wrong, you know, we would set back trust and confidence in our service, which is not what we're trying to do.
All right, thank you, Member Yip. I have Member Gibson and then Vice Chair Campos-Vanu.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Thank you for that, all the research and work done on this. A fairly comprehensive review by the public, by NRPS members. Actually, I'm quite impressed at how thorough it is. During your public, and the public has a very high, actually surprising to me how high the response was in favor of it. It's really great, actually. Was there much discussion in regards to the dollars involved with the public? I don't think I saw anything there in regards to that. I'm just curious how they like it, but, oh, it's too expensive. Anything like that discussed?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, there was a lot of questions about cost, there's no doubt. During our interactions with the public, a lot of questions were asked about how much this is going to cost, what does it mean in terms of tax dollars, how is it going to affect my bill? There's a lot of these numbers obviously are still not 100% determined. We try to address the concerns as best as we can. Every interaction I had, and I know everybody that was involved in the interactions, we're trying to educate as much as possible that this is obviously not free. These are the estimates that we have, so that when they're filling up the survey, they have that in the back of their mind and they're aware of the costs that are involved. But there was a lot of questions about cost, there's no doubt, yeah.
Thank you, and Chair, I'll continue. So basically, people would respond to you saying, oh, that's a lot of money, but it's still worth it through their survey and that, so.
Yeah, that was the overwhelming response. I mean, they were definite, a lot of the respondents were in support of it, and despite the cost. That being said, there was no questions in the survey about costs, so that was something that we didn't include in the survey, but there
Okay.
was a lot of questions about that.
Thank you, Chair, that's my question.
Thank you, Member Gibson. Vice Chair Capsavanu?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. One is a comment, and the other one is just a question, and I might have missed it somewhere in the presentation, but I just want to find out, did you guys have any presentations that were specific to the Francophone community, given that most, it's quite a huge number, right, in the Niagara region, and you've got organizations such as Sophie Franc and Centre de Santé. I don't know if they're the Community Inclusion Council, but are we actually reaching out to the specific French community, given the number of immigrants that are within the French community?
We have not reached out specifically to the Francophone community. We had an engagement specifically in Welland, where a lot of those members are, but we did not specifically reach out to them, no.
Okay, so I think that just in future going forward, considering we're also going through the strat plan as well as the next thing, that we do consider that there is a significant Francophone community in the region. And the other comment, I guess, through you, Chair, is around the policies when it comes to gender-based violence, anti-racism, and trauma. I think it would be, as we look at developing policies for this, it may just be advisable to make sure that whatever methodologies they're already integrating gender-based analysis plus anti-racism and trauma-informed lenses while we're developing the policies.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair. I now will go to Member Lawson and then Member Steele.
Thank you. Just a quick question. So we're seeing an active case right now in Toronto where the body camera footage was leaked before the SIU was involved. And SIU Director Joseph Martino had indicated the leaked footage should be thoroughly investigated. So my question is while we're developing these policies, there's a lot of policies to be considering, including we're consulting. And I think you've kind of answered this when you were talking about Hamilton. Are we consulting with other groups right now during these real-time scenarios when we're drafting these said policies?
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Member Lawson, maybe I'll take that question. I am aware of the incident in Toronto, and I won't speak to the specifics with respect to that. What I would say is it highlights a risk for every organization that we need to be mindful of as we look forward in the development of our policies. And as explained by Dr. Perez and Ronnie, we've done an extensive consultation with police services across the country, not just in Ontario. We certainly want to learn from all missteps, all the things that are done right and all the things that are done wrong, so that, you know, if supported by the board, the policies that we bring forward are the best policies possible and mitigate officer and safety risk, community safety risk as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Lawson. Member Steele.
Thank you, Chair. And the Toronto issue was one of my questions, so I thank Member Lawson for bringing that up. Just a couple things here. In regards to legal savings, you mentioned that earlier in your presentation. Have you looked at any numbers from across Canada with regards to the services that have implemented body-worn cameras and the effects afterwards that it has actually lowered legal fees for the service? And do you have kind of, I don't mean dollar numbers, but any percentage numbers that there has been an effect?
I'll start the answer, and then Dr. Perez might have some comments as well. We have looked definitely into that. There's a lot of literature review that has been done and a lot of studies that have been done, especially in the States, about litigation costs and how much body-worn cameras would reduce that. The numbers vary between $3 to $3 in savings for every dollar that you spend in body-worn cameras to $5 in savings for every dollar that you spend, depending on which study you look at. The answer to that question, if you go to any police service within Ontario or within Canada, is difficult. They haven't been, it's difficult to get an answer if you go out and ask that question, and there are several reasons for that. Mainly that in terms of savings in general, it's very hard to quantify that because body-worn cameras, once you introduce them, there's a lot of tentacles throughout the organization and what the effects are. There's effects on training, there's effects on litigation, there's effect on evidence gathering. So to quantify all of that is very difficult for police services, but the studies did focus on litigation costs, and there is no doubt that there is definitely cost savings. It's just trying to determine that from other police services was a little bit difficult. We had to rely on literature review to get that number. Like I said, it varied depending on the study you're looking at, but between 3 and 5 is what we've seen. I don't know, Dr. Perez, do you have anything else to add from literature review?
Just quickly, thank you through the chair. In terms of savings for litigations, we've seen a lot of studies reporting 40% reduction in terms of cases that potentially won't get substantiated. I'm just gonna do my best to explain in legal terms, but I had a conversation with our legal counselor a few days ago, and she pictured a case where now, because you have the camera, you have an on camera, the case that was coming to the service is not coming anymore. So rather than spending a lot of time in that specific case, now with additional evidence, we have the opportunity of providing that information. So there's a study suggesting that 40% reduction in legal procedures time and 40% reduction in the number of cases or complaints by the public against the service. Again, as Mr. O'Day was referring to, there's I think the well-known documented direct impact on camera is this, they use the term, or the authors use the term, the civilizing effect, which is better interactions, more respectful interactions with both parties. So that simple effect produces multiple impacts. A, reduction of those potential altercations and situations that could scale up and become a case that could be litigated further. So that's just to picture an example of that case that could be substantiated based on the fact that you have additional evidence. Some parties might decide to not proceed, and then you don't have to deal with that.
Great. And last question is, with regards to other jurisdictions across Canada that have had body-worn cameras for a longer period of time than just a year, because it does take time. Have any of those jurisdictions gone back out and done surveys within their own services? And have they gone back out to the public just to see how people are feeling about it? You know, if they've been in service for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I know this is more of a new thing, but has there been anything out there at this time?
Thank you for that question, and through the chair. In our first presentation back in January here, we present some evaluation studies from Calgary Police Service, Toronto Police Service, and we present the findings from the 2 pilot studies that were conducted in Edmonton and Victoria. So there are some benefits in terms of the production of evidence, additional evidence, the reduction of use of force incidents, and more so right now what we are seeing is the improving on following procedures and protocols by officers. What I mean by that is the camera is being used right now to inform training. So think about like use of force incidents, how to handle those situations properly. Officers can sit down with their supervisors and review how they act and improve their scope of practice. So that's one of the most common benefits that's being reported, and I'm aware that the RCMP is running a large study right now in terms of how can we improve our training with accessing footage, real footage from previous interactions and situations, and that hopefully will help our officers to advance their knowledge and skills in terms of their scope of practice.
Thank you. So a little bit further to this, though, have they actually gone back out with a similar survey? You know, if you look at the numbers that Member Yip talked about, the numbers you showed us today about how our service responds to these, whether they're in favor, not in favor, what are their concerns? Have those numbers drastically changed? And also with going out to the public, similar to what you've done now and kind of re-asking those questions now that the body-worn cameras are implemented, have those services and those communities seen a change in view of the public where, although, as Member Gibson said, there's a large number of people that said yes with regards to the survey. It was a really good number across the public sector. But have those numbers changed even more, and to break it even down to different segments of the population, have those changed? Have, you know, whether it's the LGBTQ community, whether it's the Black community, the Native community, all those have things changed in certain areas that are affected, where people feel better about this or they feel worse about this? Do we have any information on that at this time?
Thank you for that question, and through the chair. What we have right now is just the information about evaluations and pilot projects, evaluation from Calgary Police Service and a pilot project from Toronto. And also, we learned from our own community consultation was an adaptation of what the RCMP did a few months back. They had different responses in terms of community perceptions and stuff like that. We tried to align with those questions so then we can provide a benchmark, initial and afterwards. So as part of this rollout or proposed implementation, you remember the slide where I have a roadmap. So we're considering a evaluation after the implementation. So we will be able to tell the story about whether, and if you look at how the questions were designed, is to provide a full comprehensive evaluation, pre and post, and then statistically valuable data for you to properly evaluate that. What we've seen from other studies and pilot projects is A, there's an improvement in the quality of evidence, and two, and B, there's an improvement on community interactions. Although, again, it's from evaluations they did from their own services, and we need to be cautious of not generalize those results because each community is different. So we might want to do our own evaluation if the program is approved, so we can have our own data and just to take those as reference, right? So.
Yeah, it's good to hear that at some point in the future. I mean, you've got to let it go along for a while so that, you know, everything's implemented, and you know, there may be changes in the first year to 2 years going out with regards to policies, how things are handled. But there has to be a point where we go back out and look at surveys within our own associate or within our own service and without the public. So I thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Steele. I have Member McKendrick? Sorry.
Good morning, and through you, Chair, thank you for the presentation. Very helpful, wonderful to see the high level of participation, even though we would all always want more. And I appreciate the identification of the benefits and the valid concerns from everybody who participated. I just want to note that in addition to the vulnerable populations and communities that have already been talked about, that I will also be looking, and I think other board members will also be looking for the balance of evidence with privacy, respect, and dignity related to calls for mental health and addictions, as well as our unhoused community members in the development of those policies and procedures. And I'm very happy to hear that there is consideration for ongoing evaluation so that there can be training and development and necessary improvements and adjustments made going forward. So thank you for the work. And those are my comments. I don't need a response. It's just to be developed and watching for. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Member McKendrick. I see no other speakers on the list. Unless you have anything else to add to it, Chief, or anybody? No?
Well, thank you, Chair. I was just making note of Member McKendrick's comments, so I have nothing else to add. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you for your presentation. We do have a motion here this morning, moved by Member Yip, second by Member Steele, that the board approve the implementation of the body-worn cameras program as part of the Niagara Regional Police Service 2026 capital and operating budgets.
Can you find another mover, please?
Okay,
Thank
all right. I do need a mover, another mover, moved by Member Gibson. So is there any discussion? Member Steele?
Thank you, Chair. With regards to the motion as it states, can we add the word deliberations at the end so that it would read that the board approved the implementation of the body-worn cameras program as part of the Niagara Regional Police Services 2026 capital and operating budget deliberations? I'd rather go in talking about this during budget, not saying that we're already passing this. I'd rather have it as a discussion so that we can make that decision at that point.
Yeah, we can do that. Right? That's
Friendly
a friendly amendment.
As a seconder, I'll agree to that.
Okay, move.
You're the mover.
Okay,
Thank you, Chair.
thank you. Any other discussions? Okay, I'm seeing none. We'll go on the vote then. All those in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, second presentation, 7.2, Niagara Regional Police Service Strategic Plan. Chief, do you want to introduce next presenter? We're doing.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I'll give our next presenter a chance to grab a drink of water before they come back up to the podium. Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce Ronnie Day. As you know, as referenced in the board, under the Community Safety and Policing Act, the board has a responsibility to develop the strategic plan, and this is in support of the board in that capacity.
All right. Okay, we're just loading the presentation. Thank you again for your second presentation this
You're welcome.
morning.
Thank you.
All right, you may begin.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, today what we're going to be touching on is what we're planning on doing to create our strategic plan for the next 4 years. So that plan will extend from 2026 to 2029. Our current plan ends this year. So what we'll be talking about today is the regulatory framework for strategic planning within the police service, how the strategic planning has changed over the last few years and how does that affect us moving forward, the proposed methodology of how we're going to be doing this, how we're going to be consulting with the community, and the roadmap, and finally next steps. So within the regulatory context, we really have 3 levels of how the strategic plan is governed. At the highest level, we have the legislative or the regulation that we're bounded by, which is the CSPA, the Community Safety and Policing Act. That is dictates that Section 39 of that act dictates that we shall be doing a plan, or the board shall be doing the plan every 4 years as a maximum. So if we choose to do it less than that, we can, but as a maximum. Now it's 4 years. It used to be 3 years under the old act. The second level of this is the level of the board of yourselves. This is an oversight level, and it's governed by a bylaw that we have published on our website. It's a PSB bylaw 413/2024, although that might have recently changed over the last week or two. The last level is what we do in terms of compliance within our police service, and that is governed through a policy or a GO, General Order 17406. And that's what we use internally to figure out the details of how the plan is governed within the police service. So policing has changed tremendously, as you are aware, over the last 4 years, and we expect it to continue to change. It has become a lot more community-centric, so there's a lot of stronger emphasis on building trust and partnerships with the community. There's a lot more focus on collaborative problem-solving rather than the top-down enforcement. We're seeing that in our own police service with the creation of the new deputy chief for community services. We're seeing that throughout our service and throughout policing in general. Also, the policing has changed from reactive to proactive approaches. It has shifted from just responding to crimes to actually preventing them and dealing with the root causes of the issue. Those of you who were with us in the last conference in Mississauga, the Safer Cities Conference at Mississauga, talked a lot about dealing with the root causes of the issues rather than arresting your way through the problems. So that theme is throughout police services, and we expect it to continue. All of that is done through data-driven insights and community engagement again. Integration of technology and data has become more prevalent in recent years. Modern policing strategies now rely heavily on real-time data, predictive analytics, surveillance technologies, and all those guide our decision-making and should guide how we do our strategic planning as well. Finally, policing has become, or the need for being flexible and adaptive is absolutely a must now. And the new methodology that we're proposing kind of focuses on that. Plans have to become a lot more agile and respond to these emerging threats that are coming up. Think of the cybercrime threats that have happened. Think of the pandemic issues that have happened that we're not expecting, and they'll continue to happen. There's the tariffs going on south of the border that we were not, again, accounting for. So all of these things tell us that we have to be a lot more agile, a lot more flexible moving forward. You might have seen this slide before. This is a slide that the chief has presented at the budget presentations in the past, and it focuses really on a lot of the concepts that we have to be taking into consideration. Think about community, think about a lot being more innovative, a lot more evidence-based. The idea of continuous improvement is now being adopted more and more throughout police services and through our Office of Corporate Strategy and Innovation. That's one of our mandates. The idea of modernization is also a theme that we have to take into consideration. So the purpose of this slide is to kind of throw at you some of the concepts that we will be focusing on as well as we move forward. So what does that mean in terms of the approach that we're taking? Our approach is it will become a lot more agile, as I mentioned, and the traditional approach of planning from the top down and reporting from the bottom up is an old approach. Typically, the strategy is set up at the highest level. Under that, there's the tactical level, and under that, there's the operations. And then you report back on what's happening. With the new approach, it's a lot more, as I said, flexible. There's 3 levels to it. Again, the strategic, the tactical, the operational level. And what we're trying to do with this is, sorry, I just have one slide. I have a slide missing. So This approach goes hand in hand with stratified policing and the idea that the higher you go in the organization, the more responsibility or the more difficult the problems that you deal with. So the higher you go, the more strategic you are, the lower you go, the more operational focused you are. But the idea is that it's a cross-functional team that kind of collaborates on issues as we go, and that we deal with issues throughout the organization through cross-functional teams. So there's three main ingredients for this plan, and those three main ingredients focus on alignment, integration, and value. In terms of alignment, we have to align everything that we do. That includes PSB meetings, reports, annual reports, budget cycles. One of the reasons why we're doing this right now at this time is because we are trying to align it with the budget cycle that's coming up. So we are trying to push ourselves as much as possible to create a strategic plan that is heavily aligned with the budget cycle. Also with the organizational structure. So our alignment, I talked about the alignment with the community and community needs. We're seeing that again with the creation of the deputy chief for community services, the creation of the core unit or the expansion of the core unit. Again, the Indigenous liaison officer, the corporate strategy and innovation unit, and with us being a lot more aligned with evidence-based policing. So that alignment theme is throughout the organization and throughout everything that we do. In terms of integration, we're integrating our systems, our processes, our policies, but most importantly, we are integrating our partnerships and our external collaborations. We are seeing a lot more integration now with the region, with the schools, nonprofit organizations, local municipalities, and that also has to be taken into consideration when we're doing the strategic plan. Also in terms of value, so we want to move away from being output-based and become a lot more value-based. That will create a lot of our flexibility that's needed. So instead of focusing on just achieving a specific and a measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound goal, the focus should be on what value does it achieve. We're still going to put targets that are smart in nature, but the focus should be on the value that it's going to be achieving for the community. So how is this going to translate? So this slide is difficult to read, but I will go to the next slide. It has a bit of a zoomed-in version, but just from this slide, we currently have in the old plan at the highest level the 4 goals, and then under that we have the objectives. Under that we have the key performance indicators and the targets. In the new plan, what we're going to have key priorities, so that will replace kind of our goals. Under that we'll still have the objectives, and under that we'll have the action plans. Action plans are essentially our project charters. Think of them as a project scoping document that kind of tells us how we're going to achieve a lot of these, and it trickles all the way up. So this is the new proposed methodology. The idea here is that it will be focusing or bringing in the community priorities and the police service priorities. That will inform the plan, that will inform the strategic plan, and from that, we will be creating those action plans through working with cross-functional teams. From that, we will deliver the outcomes, and that will feed back again in a cyclical cycle back to the community priorities and back to the police services priorities. As I mentioned at the bottom, you see the alignment, the integration, and the value as a common theme throughout. In terms of how we're going to be setting the strategic plan, we start with setting the horizon or setting the vision and the mission at the highest level. And under that, we will have the engagement. So that would include engagement with the community, engagement with yourselves, engagement with the police service members. From that, we will create the strategy, and then we will track the progress. That will be done hopefully through dashboards, and will be transparent to our members and hopefully to the community as well. And then we would organize the resources and review and adapt accordingly with time. So there will be regular reviews of the plan, and we will change and adapt accordingly. There's some tools that we want to use. These are action plans, as I mentioned, that will ensure that we are committed to the execution of the plan. There's the project management approach to support those strategic priorities. We have recently hired a project manager within our unit, so that will focus on a lot of that and introducing a lot of the Project Management Institute methodologies within our service. We have accountability and responsibility matrices that would help us be all accountable and in check in what we're achieving. And of course, as I mentioned, in terms of communication, there'll be the the dashboards and the indicators, and the communication plans that would focus on over-communicating the plan and making it clear for everybody what our goals are. This is what we're proposing in terms of consultation strategy. So we are today at April 24th, presenting this as an idea for you. Ultimately, it is a Police Services Board members, so this would have to be obviously approved by you, and your involvement is key in this. Following this, if you move ahead with this, we are planning on consultation with the community through facilitated sessions. So that would be, those are tentative dates, and we're going to be sending the invites if all goes well today. May 20th, May 21st, and May 28th. These are the groups that we are looking at consulting with. Of course, on terms of the community at large, we are doing another survey. That would be in the month of May. So that's an online survey. We're also doing another survey with our NRPS members and sessions as well throughout the month of May. And finally, we'll be coming back to you with a plan. It won't be a surprise to you because you'll be involved throughout, obviously, but the official plan would be presented to you on September 25th. In terms of the timeline, this is what we're looking at. So we are, as I mentioned, April 24th today. We're presenting this. The next step is to go to the community as well as NRPS engagement. In June, July, we'll be doing a lot of the analysis from the results of the engagements, and we'll create the first draft. In September, we'll present it. And after that, we'll be communicating it to the public towards the end of the year, or before the end of the year, I should say. I'll leave this slide up and welcome any questions in terms of next steps or anything else that you had.
All right, again, thank you for your presentation. I have member Yip first.
Thank you, through you, Chair. First of all, I just want you to know I really appreciate all the work that you're doing. My questions are not with respect to this strategic plan, I know that, so I asked back in 2023, because I keep everything, about the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan status update that we received at that point. I asked about recognized best practice to include diversity, equity, and inclusion in organizational strategic plans. The answer that I received at that time was that it's the board's prerogative as to how that will work. So through you, Chair, again, recognizing that we have a municipal diversity plan, but that municipal diversity plan is only as good as the individuals from whom we can appoint, right? So regional council, the appointees to the Police Service Board have to be representative of the community, but when you have 32 white people sitting around a table and you can only select from them, we're not really hitting that. And the strategic plan sections in the CSPA talk about communicating, reaching out to community about interactions with youth, members of racialized groups and members of First Nations, Inuit and Métis communities, groups representing diverse communities and so on. I guess my I don't know if it's a question so much as I want to make sure, especially with the EDI strategic plan also expiring this year, that we do really meaningful work to include EDI in the organizational strategic plan, and it not just be sort of a bullet point saying that these are the things we'll do, but that it's woven throughout the strategic plan. Again, I don't know if it's really a question, but if you have something to say to that, that would be helpful.
Member Yep, I'm going to go to Chief Forty for a response from some clarity.
Thank you, Chair, through you to Member Yep. I do recall, you raising that question about the diversity plans, and at that time, it was prior to the new act coming out. I think with the new act in place, it specifically separates the two plans. So I think prior to our, I guess as a board, deciding on the placement, I just would want to ensure compliance with the new act and subsequently the reporting, the annual report requirements that the act is quite prescriptive on.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So, I mean, I have the section of the act here, and the diversity plan, it actually says every municipality that maintains a municipal board shall prepare and approve a diversity plan, which is actually one of the items that we have on today's agenda. And it really just speaks about appointments to the board rather than any sort of organizational equity, diversity, and inclusion plan. I guess, I mean, if the interpretation of that is different and there is a need for a separate EDI strategic plan for the service, then, I mean, I still would want to see it woven in, again, in a really meaningful way in the overall organizational strategic plan. The problem is that when you separate them, then one definitely becomes a footnote, right? Rather than being something that is being worked on continuously through the term of the plan.
Thank you, Chair, through you. And in response to Member Yip's question, I think what we'll do is we'll look at it more closely. I think, my interpretation may be incorrect. I think I was distinguishing between the municipality's responsibility and the police board's responsibilities, and then the annual reporting responsibilities. So we'll look at it all and make sure that we're being as inclusive and compliant as we can be.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, okay. I have Vice Chair Capsavanu.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you for that presentation. I kind of like the methodology that you're coming up with, but I just have a few questions around, I may be going into the weeds, so if I am, please let me know. I just wanted to find out, first of all, when we are looking at evidence-based policing, right, and we got Dr. Perez in the house, for us to work on the new strat plan, there's got to be some evidence. Are we going to get a report on some evidence that we're going to use to base the creation of the priorities that we are having for the new strat plan? That's the first question.
Yes, so through you, Mr. Chair, what we're planning on doing, as I mentioned, the community consultation, and we're planning on doing the sessions as well. And if I can just dive in a little bit to Member Zip's question, I forgot to mention that we are doing a circle specifically for the Indigenous community as part of this consultative process, where we're going to be consulting with the Indigenous community as a separate session on top of everything else that you're seeing here, to take into consideration the feedback also from that minority group. So going back, we are planning on doing a report from those sessions, as well as a report from the online survey that will educate through evidence what the priorities for the communities are, and base our goals and objectives based on that.
Okay. Thank you, and through you, Chair, my second question is around the dashboards and the radiators that we're using. What key elements are we considering to come up with the radiators and the dashboards that we will be using for that? Especially if we are looking at transparency, right? Are the stakeholders within the process of creating the strat plan going to have access to any of these things? And is it going to be digital as well? That's what I guess will be another question.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. So what we'll do is look at the goals, look at the themes that are coming up from these engagements, and from that derive the goals and the objectives. From that, we will derive the best KPIs that we can use to gauge our progress towards these. And from that, we're going to create dashboards that would be digitized and transparent. We're seeing a common theme through other police services where the results of the strategic plan are not only communicated, but they're shown in different media outlets and whatnot. So we are hoping to do the same thing where it is available for the public, not only for the board and for the service members, but also for the public to hold us accountable.
Thank you for that. And through you, Chair, and I'm assuming you're doing the same for the RACI metrics as well, right?
The RACI metrics, we were not planning on it, but we can certainly look at doing that, yeah.
Okay, and through you, Chair, I guess my final question is around the community outreach, where you've got, again, diversity groups has been lumped together as one, and that's very problematic. And this is why I think when I was talking on the previous presentation about making sure that we're integrating gender-based analysis plus anti-racism and trauma-informed lenses, because these diverse groups are they're not one. You know, Black populations have different needs, Indigenous communities have different needs, LGBT, everybody needs a specific solution. And when you put them together like that, what we are creating is a one-size-fits-all, and that doesn't work at all. And so I would suggest that we name, because what we name, we provide a solution for. And so if we could name what those diverse groups are, and I was just wondering if 3 days for community consultation is enough? And it would be enough if you're doing diverse groups as one, but if you're going to be specific to the different groups and the different needs, I do not think that 3 days of consultation for community is enough.
Chief, did you want to respond to that? I thought you were ready to respond, I'm sorry.
I was going to then
Okay.
second guess, but I can clarify
Sure.
with respect to the dates. The dates are in the presentation, but the dates are not in the written correspondence because we wanted to allow for the flexibility. The presentation was done before the final report was completed to ensure one, board's availability at the different tables, groups coming together, and are confirming which groups, in fact, we were going to meet with based on their availability.
Thank you, Chief.
Great, thank you, Chief. Thank you for your questions, Member Vice Chair Capizanu. Now I have Member Still, then Member McKendrick.
Thanks, Chair. Maybe through to our Executive Director, with regards to the September meeting that this is coming back to us, is this going to be at the September board meeting, or will this be a separate day? Will it be one of our committee days?
I haven't had, through you, Mr. Chair, I haven't had any conversation yet with the service about this. I think these dates are just tentative right now, and as the Chief said, the presentation was prepared in advance of the final report, so we'll certainly have to, I'll get back to you and make sure.
Yeah,
You know, maybe it'd be better on a separate day, I think. is
exactly.
where-
I think
yeah.
it would be because of the depth of comments and what we're going to be talking about with this. I'd rather not it take up a whole day when we, I mean, we can get through our normal business very well on a normal business day of our 3 meetings, but I think it needs a separate day.
I can take that as direction and work with the service to set that up.
Thanks.
All right, so we'll take that as direction. Is that it, Member Still? All right, thank you. Member McKendrick?
Yeah, thank you through you, Chair. I appreciate the new methodology and adapting the approach, so thank you for that. My question is around the slide that's being shown right now around the consultation strategy. Just wondering where community partners or service providers may be included in that consultation, thinking about the overlap and intersectionality of community service providers and partners around human trafficking, gender-based violence, mental health and addictions, and homelessness. I can't name them all, but just wondering where they may fall in the consultation strategy.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so we do have the community safety and well-being partners. That would include all the community partners that we deal with. Think of victim services, Jillian Place, FACTS. The list goes on and on. I don't recall them on top of my head right now. But yeah, they are going to be obviously involved. We have an invitation list or a list of names that certain contacts that we reach out to that are representative of those partners. I don't know if that answered your questions. Sorry.
I think she just wanted, she said she doesn't see it on the proposed consultation strategy. That's why I think that's why she asked. But you're ensuring that it's going to take place. Member McKendrick?
Yeah, so thank you for that, and agree that the community safety and well-being has several partners. And hearing that there is a list somewhere, just wondering if there would be any appetite to also send, but those are facilitated sessions, correct? Wondering about the opportunity to send even an online survey as a networking outside of that. For example, the Niagara, Ontario Health Team's Mental Health and Addictions Working Group. The community safety and well-being partners, while representative, can't necessarily represent every service provider. So I'm just looking for some opportunity to widen the consultation to other service providers who may not be at the community safety and well-being table.
All right. We take that as direction,
Sure.
Chief? Yeah. Chief, do you want to respond?
Yes, acknowledged, yes.
All right. Thank you, Member McKendrick. Is there anything
Thank you.
else? No. All right. I don't see anybody else on the list to speak. Thank you for your presentation. We do have a motion here, moved by Member Gibson, second by Vice Chair Capizavanu, that the board receive, analyze, and approve the proposed methodology for the development of the strategic plan 2026 to 2029. Any discussion? I'm seeing none. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. All right, thank you for your presentation. Next item is the consent item. Move items 8.1 to 8.12 in block. I have moved by Member Lawson, second by Member Yip. It's just to receive for information. Is there any discussion on any of the items? I'm seeing none. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. We'll now go to new business, 9.1. This is in regards to Niagara Regional Police Service response to Regional Council request to police tow rotation list. So it's been moved by Member Still, second by Vice Chair Capizavanu, the report be submitted to Regional Council for information purposes. Before I go to the floor for any discussion, maybe I can go to the Chief for some comments or some in regards to the issue.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The issue of the operation of tow trucks in the region was presented at Regional Council. As a result of direction from Regional Council, our team has been in discussion with members at the Niagara region. We are still gathering information with respect to the ultimate service delivery that might be offered, in particular with respect to what I'll call non-crime tows. We are still, as I referenced, gathering information. I would be remiss if I did not say that we have the capacity to take this on, and we are probably very well positioned to do so. But in having said that, in order to do that, there are human and financial resource implications that would need to be, I think, considered by the board in terms of if ultimately we do establish a framework for that, the compliance, inspections, things of that nature that require, human resource intervention and action to do. So I anticipate receiving more information from the region, from their staff. Inspector DeVay has been engaged. And when we have that information, we would be better positioned to ultimately develop a policy to ensure that it's transparent, accountable, and fair to all those involved in this particular industry.
Thank you, Chief. Just to be clear, the discussions took place after March 12th, or 20th, which was after the regional council, correct? There's no discussions prior to that?
No, that's correct. The province implemented, there was changes with respect to the legislation at the provincial level. And then with respect to the non-crime tows, we did not have any discussions with the region prior to it being discussed at the region, but we have engaged in discussions since. And, we have discussions with the region on a wide variety of issues, and we have very healthy, productive relationships. I trust that we can work through this once we have the information that we need to make an informed decision.
All right, and I appreciate that. I just wanted some clarity because there was some confusion that night, and I appreciate that the discussions happened after the 20th. So is there any member still?
Thank you, Chair. Understatement by you with the confusion. Through you to the chief. So, Chief, this service gave up licensing for towing, exotic dancers, and taxis back in about 5 years ago, I think it was, so when you were mayor of Wainfleet. So this is out of our jurisdiction. At that point, when it was taken away from us, we had nothing to do with this, correct?
Through you, Chair, we were engaged in towing vehicles that were involved in criminal acts, but the towing for what I'll call non-criminal tows, the region ultimately had stewardship of that responsibility.
Yeah, so we're right out of it, correct?
Pardon me?
We're right out of that, correct?
Well, our dispatchers would contact the region and
No, but what I'm saying is we don't look after any lists, we don't approve tow truck operators or anything like that, aside from the criminal activity, which is in this report, where we do have our RFP that we put out. We have a contractor that comes and does crime-related tows, which is fine. We've done that. But as far as licensing, putting any lists together, all that stuff, that is out of our control, correct?
correct. We had an RFP that we put out for.
Correct. So based on what was discussed at regional council, that up to a certain point was regional responsibility, correct?
Correct.
Then the province changed the act. They took over all aspects of towing with regards to licensing and everything else. Is that correct?
Well, the province was responsible for licensing, but from the date of inception up until I guess the issue was discussed at the region was, had assumed or retained carriage of the non-crime tows by way of their engaging third-party private sector vendor.
So the private sector vendor in this report, I apologize, because it does list it in here.
Through you, Chair, it's commonly referred to as the Towing Alliance.
Yes, thank you. So that, because that's where I think the biggest part of the confusion that evening for the three of us came to a head with regards to, the region was trying to say that it had nothing to do with them. But they still maintained that after the province changed the act and took over licensing. Is that your understanding of this, Chief?
Through you, Chair, yes, that's my understanding.
So, all due respect to our friends of the region, I don't want to get back into this. We got rid of this. I want to stay out of this. I don't want to see this coming back to our budget. We've got other things that we need to deal with that are services that we must provide. This is not a service we must provide anymore. So I don't want to see it coming back to us at all. I think this should go back to the region. We should receive this report, and the region should deal with this. And then we could put our regional hats on and put our 2 cents worth in at that discussion at regional council. I don't want to see it coming back to this service. I don't want us spending money on this. We have money that needs to go elsewhere. I mean, we have budget pressures right now. I'm one that's not going to be taking this on. That I won't support that. So if the region has been looking after that and they find the system that they're using is working, so be it. But I believe that region staff, and it can go through region council if a councillor wants to bring it up, that decision can be made in that chamber, not in here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussions? Chief, do you want to add to that? No? Member Gibson?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I'm not aware of the discussions that went on at the region there. I wasn't watching that. I wonder how efficient it is being done at the region, although to Member Steele's point, maybe not our concern. But as service to the tow industry, it's important that they get looked after as well, and that we have an efficient system that works well for them. My experience is the police have often done it, and I don't know any dollars that would be involved, to be honest with you. There's simply a list, tow companies submit their interest in being on the list to tow for the police. Excuse me. The list is created, and it's rotated monthly, whatever period of time that is decided upon. So I'm not sure of any major costs there other than some hours putting it together. It's run out of the response center. Who's towing this? Oh, they're towing. Send them to the call. So I don't have an issue with it. I don't know if the chief thought it was a good idea that it comes back here. Then I don't have a problem with that. I'd be curious to liaise with the tow association or tow companies to see how well they've been serviced through the region, and I have no idea one way or the other if that's been done well or not. So just my comment on that, and really it comes down to me. If the chief thinks that we can do it and do it well here and there's no major cost to it, then to me it makes sense that we do it through the police. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Member Gibson. Chief Forty?
Through you, Chair, and to Member Steele and Member Gibson, thank you for your comments. I respect them both. The approach that I was interested in pursuing was one of getting as much information as we could, understand the impact in the community. I recognize that we as the police are part of a larger ecosystem, and what affects us affects the region. We need not look any further than the impact on national security and border security that law enforcement is playing in the broader environment. So I was looking forward to getting more information from the region to understand exactly how they ended up with the framework that they have, and then to look at our RFP, I'd look at the provincial framework. There are ongoing discussions at the provincial level because towing is an issue that extends beyond Niagara's borders. And then armed with all that information and knowing what the pros and cons are, coming back to the board with a report, framing it up, I think probably what Member Kyokyo was looking for at the region initially. So I'm certainly open to getting as much information as possible so that the recommendation that we make and the decision that we make is not only in our best interest, but in the citizens' best interest as well. So I defer to, obviously, the board with respect to your direction, but I was open to getting as much information as possible to make a decision or a recommendation.
Right, thank you, Chief. I thank you for your Member Gibson. Member Yip?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'll just draw attention to two sentences in the report that we have here. The first is that the NRPS do not have any funding or human resources allotted to manage a tow truck rotation list, but more importantly than that, we talk a lot about mandate at Regional Council and making sure that we're staying within our mandate. Managing, administering, and overseeing a tow truck rotation list is not a policing responsibility. And most importantly, arguably not an effective utilization of NRPS resources in providing adequate and effective policing. So I think we just say, we don't want it to come back here because it's not related to adequate and effective policing in the way that we're talking about it at the region. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Member. Yep, I see nobody else on the list. So I will call the question. All those in favor? Just to, yeah, and forward to council. Yeah. Yep, okay. All right, that carries. Thank you. We'll go to 9.2. Moved by Member Gibson, seconded by Member Steele, that the report be submitted to Regional Council for information purposes. This is the information on overtime body-worn cameras costs. Any discussion? I'm seeing none. I'll call the question. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. Number 9.3, moved by Vice Chair Capizavanu, second by Chair Member Lawson, that the board award Rampart International Corporation as a sole source Canadian distributor for the Glock G45 in Canada and Uniform Works with the contracts for the procurement of the firearms, sights, and holsters. And further, that the board approve the quote submitted by Rampart International Corporation, adjusted to the net of the tariff surtax, subject to any temporary tariff exemptions. Any discussion? Have Member Gibson and Member Still.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I read through that report and maybe I missed it, but what was happening with our weapons that we're not going to be using anymore, all the sidearms?
Through you, Chair. I might look to Acting Deputy Chief Kaczynski to top up my response, but many of our firearms are near end of life. And then after Acting Deputy Chief Kaczynski speaks, I thought that I might also invite Director Rouleau to speak about tariffs, because there has been a development this week subsequent to the report coming forward.
Thank you, Chief. Through you, Mr. Chair. The vast majority of our firearms are nearing the end of life. There are obviously firearms that we issue to our new officers, so there will be a portion of our firearms that are within a few years of age. There are few services who utilize the .40 caliber pistols anymore. And if there is a possibility to share, whether through some kind of a cost recovery with those services that still utilize those firearms, we will be looking into that. However, those firearms that are nearing end of life will be destroyed, as we have done in the past. We have procedures in place for that under our general orders.
Okay, thank you. I thought there might have been a bit of a return dollar amount involved, or the company doesn't want our old sidearms at all, eh? So they just send them to the artillery and chop them in half, and that's it?
Unfortunately, the company that sold us the firearms will likely not want them back. There may be some cost recovery through selling to other police services. I think the Toronto Police Service is the only one that still uses .40 caliber pistols in Ontario.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Gibson. Chief, did you have someone else who wanted to speak to it? Laura did,
Yes,
right?
please, Mr. Chair. Director Rouleau.
Okay.
So through to the chair, the chief just asked me to give an update on the tariffs, given the fact that the quotes, which appear on page 4 and 5 of the report, includes tariffs that have been applied to 2 of the items that we are purchasing. So at the time that the report was written and the quotes issued by our vendors, we had been advised that tariffs would be applied to the sight scopes and holster supplies because their country of origin is listed as the U.S. The Glock 45 firearms are not manufactured in the U.S., therefore they were not subject to the tariff surtax. But on Tuesday, April 22nd, the service received a notice from the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police advising of a customs order issued by the Canadian government on April 17th, referred to as the United States Surtax Remission Order 2025. And I think everyone can appreciate that the conversations on tariffs are very fluid, so we're getting constant updates on a daily basis. But this customs remission order is intended to minimize the negative effects of the surtaxes on a number of Canadian manufacturing sectors, as well as public health, healthcare, and public safety sectors. So it applies to law enforcement agencies. So this customs remission order is provided on a time-limited basis to provide businesses with additional time to adjust their supply chain and prioritize domestic sources of supply if available. So this customs remission order provides a tariff exemption for goods imported into Canada for only a 6-month period between April 16th to October 15th, 2025, and retroactively for goods imported since March 4th. So the remission can be waived at the time of the goods cross the border, and importers may seek a refund for tariffs already paid. So the CBSA will be administering the claims for remission of tariffs pursuant to this order. So in light of this order, we did contact our vendor yesterday, and they are sending us a revised quote without the tariff surtax, but we have amended the recommendation to be net of. They were also aware of this remission order for public safety agencies, and they will be applying for the exemption to CBSA on our behalf. And so due to the lengthy time, lead time of like 4 to 5 months from the order to the delivery of the firearms and their supplies, we were unable to pull this report and resubmit. So we're just requesting that the board approve the recommendations with the amendments that are made, despite the fact that the actual documents on page 4 and 5 include the tariff surtax. I'm happy to answer any questions related to the tariffs that may be relevant at this moment.
All right, thank you. Any further question? Member Steele?
Thanks, Chair, and that was part of my questions I was going to have. So I looked up Rampart International Corporation, and it says that they're a Canadian distributor. Are they American, or are they Canadian? Do we know? Because About Us did not state anything about where they were even from. Didn't even give an address that I could find.
So through to the chair, there may be a U.S. Rampart, but we deal with the Canadian company of Rampart. They're a Canadian company, and they are they could be the Canadian distributors for Rampart.
Well, yeah, they're probably not a Canadian company. They're an American company with a Canadian arm to it, which is fine.
Correct.
So, I mean, because the guns do come from, and I confirmed this with my good friend Kevin next to me with regards to Glocks coming from Austria, and then the other items are coming and manufactured out of the U.S. Does Glock not make holsters for their own firearms? Do we know? I don't know. Does anybody know?
Does anybody
Through you,
answer
Mr.
that?
Chair, I don't
Because I
believe
certainly
that
don't.
Glock manufactures
Holsters?
holsters. They just manufacture
The
firearms.
firearms, okay. I mean, in light of everything that's going on, I mean, you know, if they're not manufactured in Canada, we're between a rock and a hard space. But all due respect to the U.S., if there's somebody overseas that does it and the price is similar, I'd rather give it to somebody else. In today's times, I just, yeah, this whole issue is something that's affecting us all. You know, being a mayor of Port Colborne, it's a huge effect on our marine industry. So, I mean, as much as we can do in Canada is the best we can do. But, and I know you have to have a huge lead time. I think you said 4 to 5 months, because it almost sounded like 45 months. But I think it's
Sorry,
4
through
to
the
5
chair,
months.
4 to 5
5
months,
months, which is yeah, it's not a huge time. But I mean, if our guns are coming to the end of their life, I mean, you know, we've got to be prepared and get things ordered and stuff. But I just think moving forward, we got to be so cognizant of what's going on. and I know you're being kind to the President of the United States when you say tariffs are fluid. He'll wake up tomorrow and come up with, I mean, this morning he woke up and came up with a new idea on tariffs on automobiles now that they don't need cars made in Canada. He just does not understand what the heck trade is between Canada and the US, especially in the automotive industry. He thinks he can just take it all over and start building cars in the States to replace the ones that aren't built there now. So it is perplexing. But I mean, we need to do our part as Canadians, and you know, we need to band together in this stuff. I'm sure a lot of this was in the works before a lot of this came forward. I'm glad to see that some of this tariffs have been removed from what we do here at Police Services. But again, moving forward, I'd just like to see us more cognizant of where things come from. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Steele. I just have Member Gibson.
Thank you, Chair. And just one more point. Are we ordering the sidearms directly from the manufacturer in Austria? Are they coming through a distributor in the States or Canada, or how's that working?
Right, so that's exactly it. They're coming through Rampart. They're being shipped from Austria to the United States, and then to us in Canada.
But therein lies the problem. If they're being shipped to the United States, if there's a Canadian Rampart, why can't we get them shipped directly to Rampart, Canada, which should avoid all the tariff situation going on south of the border here? We're just, by having them shipped to the States, we're just automatically incurring a 20, 30, whatever % of the day that's decided upon. So I would work very diligently at that, because it's going to save us, you know, tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, if it's possible. I don't know, but maybe Rampart says no, you have to send it here and then we ship it here. But you know what? Then maybe we need to look at somebody else.
So through to the chair, just to be clear, the tariffs that are getting imposed are usually on items that are of U.S. origin. So they would be manufactured in the U.S. And so there is a lot of discussion about the items that are shipped to the States and then are shipped to Canada. So there could be the risk of a tariff on the Glocks if they're shipped into the States, if the U.S. has actually imposed a tariff on Austria, for example. But there would be no tariff on the Glock 45s just because they came through the States.
Thank you. That's today.
That's
Who knows tomorrow? It could be talking a huge amount of money. So I don't know. I think we should explore, can we get them shipped directly to Canada? Forget going through the States. That's just, and then we can avoid that whole potential problem. Maybe it's not going to be a problem. Maybe it could be a problem. So something I think we seriously need to look at.
All right. Thank you, Member Gibson. Chief Forty.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, through you. In response to Member Steele and Member Gibson's comments, I can confirm for you that Director Rouleau and her team are, and Nicole Abbott, who works on our floor, we're doing a complete review of all our MOUs, all our contracts for goods and services, with the view of trying to be as loyal to Canada as we can be. So we are undertaking that process, and if it wasn't changing every day, Director Rouleau would have the report to me now, but it keeps amending, so being amended. So we are alive to this issue, and we are trying to play our part as well.
So,
Go ahead.
Chair.
One more time, because you've spoken twice. So
No, just with regards to the what we're voting on. Staff have put an amendment in there. Should we actually move the amendment as the board and then move the motion as amended? Because
Can you
publicly,
what is the amendment then? I never.
Well, staff have the amendment, but in essence, the public sees
Well, it
what
has
we
to come
see
from one of
here.
us, the amendment, right?
I know, but we don't have that. That's what I'm saying.
So we need.
So
The motion, sorry if I can just add some clarity. The motion that was initially recommended in the report has been amended this morning and re-uploaded to reflect the temporary tariff exemptions. So if you go to your.
Oh, sorry, because I'm, yeah.
It's the second part that says, and further, the board approved
Approves the
quote submitted.
Okay, sorry, it wasn't on, I was reading off my
Oh, okay.
notes that, our executive director gave us here, so that's
Okay.
fine, okay, that's fine, I got it.
I see no other speakers, so I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. Go to 9.4. It's a Police Service Board Bylaws, Community Safety and Policing Act 2019, moved by Member McKendrick, second by Member Still, that the board adopted draft bylaws as appended to the report, and further that the board chair and executive director be authorized to make supplementary administrative amendments to board bylaws that may be required following any additional clarification of the CSPA and its regulations that may be received by the Ministry of the Solicitor General. Any discussion? And seeing none, all those in favor? That carries. Thank you. 5, moved by Member Yip, second by Member Lawson, that the board adopt the draft bylaw as appended to this report, and further that the board chair and executive director be authorized to execute the required documentation. This is in regards to the Police Service Board bylaw grievance settlements. Any discussions? I'm seeing none. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. Items 9.6 to 9.7, special fund requests. Before we consider the special fund requests listed under item 9.6 and 9.7, special fund request number 1 to number 9, I would like to remind members of the public that the special fund does not form part of the police operating budget and is separate from the regional tax base. The special fund is a discretionary pool of funds which is used for grants and charitable donations. Disbursements from the fund are made in accordance with guidelines provided in the Community Safety and Policing Act and with the Board Bylaw 403-2024, Special Fund Administration, Limitation, and Guidelines. So we have the first one, 9.6, moved by Vice Chair Capisavanyu, second by Member McKendrick, that the board approve donation in the amount of $1,000 from the special fund to the Canadian Association of Police Governance in support of its 2025 annual conference. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carried. Thank you. 9.7 is the special fund request, as you see below, from 1 to 9, moved by Member Still, second by Member Gibson, that the board authorize special fund donations as outlined in the report and approve payment in the requested amounts. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Number 10 is other business. Do any board members have any other new business? I don't see any. Chief?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, number 11 is the in-camera reports. 11.1, moved by, this is special investigation units, moved by Member Lawson, second by Member Gibson, that the reports referenced above be made available to the public. Any discussion? I'm seeing none. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Number 12 is moved by Member Yip, second by Vice Chair Capisavanyu, the board move into closed session for consideration of confidential matters pursuant to the Section 44 of the Community Safety and Policing Act, namely for subject matter related potential litigation, human resources matters, and as well as legal matters that are subject to solicitor-client privilege. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. This meeting is now adjourned. This is a long one. Oh, my God. Huh? Maybe we'll take a 5-minute recess.